Ladies and gentlemen, celebrating Hungarians, I greet you all with respect. We are gathered here today to honor and pay tribute to the heroes of the October Revolution of 1956. Today's celebration is special because we are joined by those who protected Hungary from the floods of the Danube just a month ago. Here with us are those who kept the massive floodwaters, which threatened to inundate and destroy within the riverbed. Imagine a 6-meter-high wall of water suddenly appearing out of nowhere. Not just a single tsunami-like wave, but a 400-kilometer-long water serpent. What the employees of the water authorities, disaster relief workers, soldiers, police officers, and volunteers accomplished was superhuman work. In other countries, the catastrophe claimed 24 lives and caused damage amounting to more than 10 billion euros. We did not lose a single life and managed to minimize the damage. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you. Dear celebrants, when danger approaches, when our country is in trouble, we must stand together. That is the law. We are a proud, even stubborn people. We do not tolerate any superior meddling in our lives, but we obey the law of unity, for without unity we have neither security nor freedom. Without unity, natural forces would sweep us off our feet. Without unity, we would eventually be ruled by strangers, stripped of everything, and reduced to a line of indentured servants. Dear commemorators, the Revolution of 1956 was preceded by a series of fateful tragedies. In January 1956, an earthquake shook the country, and in March, icy floods overwhelmed the Danube region. Adults and children died, hundreds of families were left homeless, and thousands of people were displaced. It was a wake-up call, signaling that it was time to prepare for the coming great times, which demanded unity. And then, in October 1956, after the Danube, history also broke out of its riverbed. Just as a river that overflows its banks does not retreat in the afternoon or withdraw to its hideout at night, history follows its own course by its own laws. This is the time when heroes are born. Shoemakers, factory workers, and farmers become heroes. Accountants, kindergarten teachers, and students become martyrs. October 1956 etched the names of brave Hungarians in golden letters in the great history book of the nation. Dear commemorators, in the autumn of 1956, history overflowed its banks because Hungary could no longer endure the oppression of the Soviet Empire. The Hungarians are a freedom-loving and freedom-fighting people. They do not tolerate the rains well, and it is only a matter of time before they free themselves from the bridle. Hungarians have never been broken or tamed by an invader. Soviet imperial oppression bound and crippled us. It robbed Hungarian families, impoverished them, and deprived them of generations' worth of work. It sought to harness our nation's resources and labor for the empire, instead of safeguarding the national interest. After a devastating world war, a puppet government was imposed upon us, a puppet government with collaborating Hungarians in it. Their mission was to transfer Hungary's assets into foreign hands and turn the people's labor and life force to serve imperial interests. My friends, empires like to hide their brutal face. Empires are delicate. They prefer to be invited in, and they will do everything to find a Hungarian who will eventually invite them. This was exactly what the Soviet Union did. They wanted their comrades, the Hungarian communists, to provide the puppet government that would invite Soviet occupation troops to stay. And if more occupation troops were needed, they would ask for reinforcements. Our non-communist leaders were imprisoned on fabricated charges. They cornered the Hungarian people through intimidation, blackmail, and violence. Whatever displeased them was shut down. Whatever pleased them was seized. And when the Hungarians resisted, they brought their comrades to power through electoral fraud. That's how Moscow's caterers were finally imposed on the Hungarian people. The rest we know: attic clearances, internment camps, doorbell fears, shattered lives, and a lost Hungarian future. They thought they had everything under control when suddenly the writing appeared on the wall. A children's rhyme, threatening in its simplicity. Don't smile, Ilyich, it won't last forever. In 150 years, we haven't become Turks. Despite all the weapons of power in their hands, despite their overwhelming force, despite the global political situation, Hungarians do not tolerate humiliation. To ensure that every puppet government and every empire understands once and for all, and never forgets, we waged the most brilliant freedom struggle in world history. We taught them for life that Hungarians are not to be trifled with. The Soviets and their communist overlords learned their lesson. For the next 34 years, they held back and eventually went home. That is why we can stand here today. That is why we can be free today. And that is why the world knows today that Hungarians must be handled with care. Gloria Victis. Glory to the heroes. Dear celebrants, today history is once again threatening to overflow its banks. The writing is again there on the wall. We see the signs. Next year, we won't need to keep water, but history within its riverbed. For in our neighborhood, a war is raging. This is the third year of this war. It is becoming bloodier and more brutal. No one knows how long it will last. Hundreds of thousands have already been killed on the front. The European economy has taken a shot to the lungs. Countless sums of money are flowing into Ukraine. Development has stalled, prices are skyrocketing, and European businesses are suffering. The sanctions are bleeding us dry. Investors are fleeing Europe for America, and European leaders are deluding themselves into thinking they can win the war. For 3 years, the warring sides have been unable to defeat each other. The bloodshed continues, and the likelihood of the war expanding is growing. And if it expands, who knows where it will stop? We haven't been this close to a world war in 70 years. Everyone sees it, but everyone pretends they don't. The king is naked. It's time to say it out loud. European leaders, the Brussels bureaucrats, have led the West into a hopeless war. In their minds, dizzy with the hope of victory, this war is the West's war against Russia, one they must win, force the enemy to its knees, and extract whatever they can. This is their grand shared goal. Now they want to openly drag the entire European Union into the war in Ukraine. Their new victory plan has already been made public. The victory plan essentially involves expanding the war. The plan says Ukraine will receive an immediate invitation to NATO. The battlefield is to be shifted onto Russian soil. The plan also includes a commitment by Ukraine, after winning on the Eastern Front, to replace the Americans and guarantee the security of all Europe with its own enhanced army. In other words, one morning we Hungarians would wake up to find that Slavic soldiers from the east are once again stationed on Hungarian soil. We do not want that, but the pressure from Brussels is increasing daily, both on the country and the government. We Hungarians must also decide whether we want to go to war against Russia. Our political opponents believe we should. For them, the lesson of 1956 is that we must fight for Ukraine, even in Ukraine. For us, the lesson of 1956 is that we must fight for one thing only: for Hungary and for Hungarian freedom. The best way we can serve Hungary and Hungarian freedom now is by not participating in the wars of others. We can do the most by ensuring that our country is not made a staging ground, and by preserving Hungary's freedom, peace, and security. Let us not bury our heads in the sand. Let us face reality. This war will cripple the entire European economy and destroy millions of families if we allow it to continue. So let us not allow it, my friends. Dear commemorators, independent Hungarian politics is unacceptable to Brussels. We must face this fact. That's why Brussels has announced that they want to get rid of the Hungarian national government. They've also announced that they want to impose a puppet government on the country, one controlled by Brussels. So the old question arises again: do we bow to the will of a foreign power, this time to the will of Brussels, or do we resist? This difficult decision now awaits Hungary. I propose that our voice should be as clear and unambiguous as it was in 1956. We will not participate in any imperial rivalry, nor will we involve ourselves in the enmities of others. We do not believe in ideologies that claim to bring happiness to the world, whether they come from the East or from the West. We want only one thing: to live in peace here in the Carpathian Basin, according to our own rules and in pursuit of our own happiness. We've proven 100 times over that we don't flinch when we are blackmailed by the current empire. We know they want to force us into war. We know they want to impose their migrants on us. We know they want to hand over our children to gender activists. We know they have their chosen puppet government in mind. There's already a party they want to impose on us. And they already have the man for the job, one who fits the mold of a real signatory, an ideal candidate to lead a puppet government. Ladies and gentlemen, 56 was a freedom fight, Hungary's fight for freedom against a world empire. Just like at Nindorf Harbor against the Ottomans, or in 1848 against Vienna, so in 1956 against the Soviet troops. It was David versus Goliath. Anyone who is a patriot is still fighting today for Hungarian freedom. But cutting a hole in the middle of the flag doesn't make someone a patriot in 2024. Throwing a Molotov cocktail doesn't make someone a hero like those of 56. It's not the clothes that make a freedom fighter, and it's not the talk that makes a freedom fighter. Only actions count, and actions speak for themselves. The whole country has seen who did what in the European Parliament. We have defended Hungarian interests and Hungarian freedom against the imperial policies of the European Union. Meanwhile, the Hungarian opposition offered their services to the empire. It's a right-wing national tradition to defend the family and the homeland. It's an internationalist tradition to betray the homeland and betray the family. Old opposition, new opposition. Only the label changes. This new one does what the old one did. They call in foreigners to help against the Hungarians. In 1956, they were helpers of the Russians. Today, they are helpers of Brussels. The new opposition leader sits at their table, next to Manfred Weber. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy in practice, in plain sight of the country and the world. A new love story for the 21st century. The Brussels master scratched the puppy's head, and the rest was visible for everyone. The love was in full swing. This is their tradition, my friends. In the battle between David and Goliath, they somehow always side with Goliath. But they always forget the end of the story, because the end of this story is always the same. Goliath loses, David wins. And then they pack up and leave. Bela Khan and his comrades to Vienna, Rákosi and his cronies to Moscow, and the current ones to Brussels. My friends, in 1956, there was unity, there was a common will, but there wasn't enough strength for sovereign action. Today, there is strong national unity behind the right-wing government. There is a common will. And today, to unity and will is added strength. Today, there is the ability to act sovereignly. And I promise you, we will use it. Being Hungarian means fighting. That is what the heroes of 56 taught us. That is what the heroes of 56 demand from us. We will not allow Hungary to become a puppet state again, a vassal of Brussels. They will not succeed. They will not break through here. We win, they lose. We Hungarians can and will make it happen. We will do it again. Glory to the Hungarian heroes of 56. God above us all. Hungary above everything. Forward, Hungary.
Kedves nézőink, közvetítettük az 1956-os forradalom kitörésének évfordulóján. Kedves nézőink, közvetítettük az 1956-os forradalom kitörésének évfordulóján.